for joining today. So this panel is about our rainbow families. As we all know, the situation is that we are more and more visible every day, and our rainbow families are becoming more visible than ever in the past. And what we are seeing is that regardless of us being visible, we are still lacking the support of the states. We're seeing that we have the legal frameworks in some countries which are which is functioning somewhat, and we are seeing that in some countries we are still having the big debates and working groups being formed around the same-sex couples. We are seeing the developments in the countries that are already having adopted same-sex partnership laws in regards to the other recognitions and other legal recognitions of the rights that are lacking for the same-sex couples. And what we are seeing now is more than ever the struggle that we are having as the rainbow families, and the support that we are needing as our rainbow families are becoming more and more visible. Today on this panel, we are joined with the activists from all over the region, which have been working on the recognition of the same-sex couples and which are working on the recognition of other legal matters for the rainbow families. And we are seeing today with us also the greatest support that we are having. Today with us, we are having Daniel Kalezic from Montenegro. We are having Bled Morina from Kosovo. We are having Stefan Šparavalo from Serbia, Daniel Martinovic from Croatia, Dejanini from Albania, and Hasan Metahan from Turkey. So first, I would like to open up with the greatest success that we are seeing in the region within the last couple of years. And this is with Daniel. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Hi everyone. I'm quite good. Still tired because we had a Pride last Saturday. So, but I'm fine today.
So, can you share with us? We have been all witnessing this great victory that Montenegro had. And could you share a little bit how the process of adopting the law for the same-sex unions was, and what path did you took with it?
It was a long path, a long journey, still not finished. But I will try. How much time do I have? 5 minutes or?
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Okay. Just not to talk too much, because when I start, I sometimes cannot stop. Okay, so it started 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. We started talking about it, and then a group of NGOs, together with the ombudsperson, sent an initiative to the parliament for preparation and adoption of that law. So it ended up in the parliament, and the parliament just didn't do anything about it. They didn't even reply or discuss it, or they just ignore it completely. The next step was sending of initiative for an opinion of the Constitutional Court of Montenegro regarding their opinion on the legal framework, or to how to legally provide rights to the same-sex couples in our country. That happened next year after this initiative, and the Constitutional Court said that it is not possible to talk about marriage equality, because in our constitution, marriage is defined as a union between a man and a woman. But they also said that there is no any legal obstacle to provide all of the rights to same-sex couples within the separate law. So that was the first important message that we get from the state institutions. And that was also something that was helping us in the throughout the process, because the opposition to the law was constantly talking about giving any single rights to these same-sex couples is unconstitutional because of the constitution and the definition of a marriage. But he was using that paper for 10 years, replying that constitutional court said that there is no any problem about it. And then the next step was preparation of the strategy for improvement of quality of lives of LGBTI persons that we was lobbying to the government to adopt as official state policy on fighting homophobia and transphobia. And we managed to lobby the government to adopt that policy as official state policy. And one of the main activities in that policy, the first policy was preparation and adoption of the law, of the civil union law. According to the plan, it was planned that the law will be adopted by 2018, but we all know that we were 2 years late.
It happened.
Yeah, I will talk about that process also. But all of this was some kind of a preparation, establishing of the conditions and gaining of the political will. So we spent several years on that, and then we started with the process officially, the process of the writing of the law. We get support from the delegation of the European Union to Montenegro, and Juventus Queer Montenegro, the ombudsperson, Ministry of Human and Minority Rights together, we prepare, and the Center for Legal Studies. It's an NGO specialized in the legal science. And we sat together and we prepared the first draft of the law. It was not official draft, but we developed that document with the aim to use it, that the working group that will officially be established in the future by the government will use it as a starting point. That happened in 2016. In 2018, the working group for preparation of the law is established by the Ministry of Human and Minority Rights. And we all together, all NGOs working on the human rights of LGBTI persons, all of the state institutions who are in charge of that, we sat together and we spent a few months on writing of the law all together. And it was quite, okay process, because all of us were on the same path. We had the political will and everything, so it was not that much complicated or stressful or anything. In the meantime, when we finished the draft of the law, we sat together to prepare ourselves how to defend the law, because I will be a few minutes late, but I will conclude soon. We were preparing for the campaigning for the law, and we was preparing ourselves for public discussion about the law, because at that moment the opposition was quite loud, led by Serbian Orthodox Church and right-wing political parties that are, unfortunately, at this moment in Montenegro are actually in power, especially Democratic Front, as a church-financed pro-Russian political party that has majority in the parliament at the moment. And they were quite loud, quite strong against the law, but we were prepared. And we managed somehow to manage all of discussion and everything. And we get to the parliament. And then political parties was fighting between them, who will vote for the law, who will not vote for the law. And one strange thing happened. At the moment, we had enough votes of MPs for the law to pass. But because of the complicated political situation and really strange political environment that we had at that moment, SDP, Social Democratic Party, they decided to not to show up during the vote. So they didn't decide to vote against or to, be abstained. They decided not to show up during the vote, so we didn't have enough votes to in order to law to be adopted. So at the first vote, the law was not adopted, and they did it because they wanted to make a damage to the current government and to DPS, because within the coalition there were not enough votes. So we were victims of the political games of the political parties, and we as a community that year responded extremely loud, and the Pride 2019 was a direct response to the decision makers, to the MPs, to political parties, that we will not allow them to use our human rights for their political games. And they get the message, and in July 2020, the law is adopted. So
yeah,
that's
so
short, the process.
Yeah, so we are seeing that, I mean, something similar happened in Croatia when the activists which drafted the law had to make the strategy to defend the law, and we had the referendum in Croatia. So in terms of Montenegro, we also are seeing something which is quite similar, that you developed the strategy for the defending the initiative and the law. But what is also interesting is that apart from Croatia, in Montenegro, we are seeing, also in Serbia, we are seeing now that there is this one particular thing that is happening, is that law is being adopted now, and it's becoming effective in affecting in 1 year. And in this 1 year, governments and the administration basically has to make some bylaws, protocols, and etc. for the law to be effective. I mean, to work basically, and to enable them to be implemented. So tell us a little bit more what happened in this year, and how come that the governments did not produce all the bylaws, and they were quite behind in developing all that is basically enabling or enabling in that particular moment for the law to be functioning.
Yeah, thank you for this overview. Yes, the law is adopted 2020, and they took into effect 2021, because 29 laws and 14 bylaws had to be amended in order to provide conditions for us to exercise all of the rights that the civil union law is actually giving us opportunity to do so. So the working group was the one who decided to have that 1 year, because we wanted to be sure that everything will go smoothly. But we lost that 1 year. The previous government amended 3 laws, and they were adopted by the parliament. And then we got the COVID situation. We got extremely unstable political conditions and situation here in Montenegro. In August last year, we had elections, and we had situation that we are having the new political alliance that is established the government. And despite the fact that within this government we are having maybe 10 or 15% of the civil-oriented politicians who are supporting our human rights, but we have majority of those who are not, and none of them actually supported the law before. So we are having we are going back in terms of human rights, not only of our human rights, we are going back on the women's human rights and human rights in general, and that's quite obvious, because we are having unfortunately, the government that is only on a declarative level pro-EU or pro-Western values, but we quite know that that government is actually the meeting for the final meeting of these political stakeholders who established the government about who will be the prime minister, who will be the ministers and things like that, happened in the monastery of the Serbian Orthodox Church. So that is telling you what is a lot about the political situation and why they do not want to continue on this. We are pushing them. We as a civil society organizations, we provided to the government actually written amendments of all of the laws that should be amended. We sent it to the government. We organized a protest. We were just talking on the Pride about that, but they just, you know, do not want to continue the process, and they amended 2 laws before the date of the taking into the force of the civil union law, but they didn't send it to the parliament yet, and they are not doing anything about other 24 laws or things like that. So now we are working with the parliament, we are working directly with the MPs, because the other option for us in order to amend these laws is to make agreement with the MPs to initiate their process, because they can do it. The government is not the only one that is able to start that process. The parliament can do it directly, and we do hope that we will manage to have majority of 41 MPs who will support that, and that we will do it through the parliament, because it's obviously that our government at the moment having the strategy to send some people to the Pride, to take a photos, to give a statements and things like that, but they are not willing to do anything directly in order to you know, to amend the laws or to work on policies on things like that, because there is no that is not possible to make agreement on that between them.
Yeah, we're seeing the high level of pinkwashing throughout the region, and it's like something that is, I mean, the most visible in our countries, I would say. What does this mean concretely for the couples that are basically now registering throughout the Montenegro?
That means that we are able to you know, to conclude the partnership. But on the other hand,
okay,
people who are already in partnerships that are concluded outside of Montenegro or in marriage, they are not able to exercise any single right in Montenegro, because technically it is not possible to provide them to write that information that they are already in partnership or marriage. It's not possible to enter that information in our league register, so they are not able to exercise any rights. On the practical level, that's the one problem, but there are many other problems, because, you know, you are having the paper that you are in the civil union, and you go to some institution to exercise the rights with that paper, and they told you, oh, the law that is regulating that is not amended, so you are not able to exercise that right. So that is what is happening in practice. So on many levels, it is good that we are able to conclude the partnership, but when we are talking about exercising of the rights, we are facing many problems. So that's why we are fighting for this amending of the other laws, and but we will see. We are now working on the law case against the state with the couples who, with the 6 or 7, I don't know, couples who concluded partnership outside of Montenegro, because they are not able to exercise the rights in our country. So we will see. we will see what will happen and how. We will try to the parliament. If not, we will go to the court.
Okay, so we are seeing basically strategic litigation cases are also the big hit throughout the region. We'll hear more about it later on, but now we are having another panelist with us, Blair Marina from Kosovo. Hi, Blair.
Hi everyone. I'm sorry for switching my camera, but constantly I'm receiving that my connection is not stable. So maybe I should continue like this for a while. Hopefully
okay.
Better.
Yeah, I think it will get better. So we know that in Kosovo we have new drafted code which is opening the way for the same-sex unions. And we know that you started initiating so many conversations with the government representative in regards to that. Could you share a little bit more what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. But first, let me thank all of you for your amazing work that you've done during this last 2 years, knowing the new circumstances. And also, I want to use this opportunity to thank ERA team for organizing this very important event and for including me. So, regarding the process of drafting the first civil code in Kosovo, we started in 2014, a project that was supported from EU office in Kosovo. At the time, a pool of international, local experts were engaged to compile the first draft. Hence, since the establishment of the working group in 2014 for drafting the civil code, us as civil society were very interested, particularly on the family law. But for us, it was impossible to get any information at that point as the working group was very closed and we didn't have access at all. The first informal contact with the representatives of the working group was made possible in December 2018. In this informal meeting, we were informed that the project of civil code within the book 4 does not regulate same-sex marriage, and there is an article stating that all other forms will be regulated by a special law. So they didn't want it to include within the civil code same-sex marriage for LGBTI persons. Considering that the project was an EU-funded initiative and that the purpose of it was to draft a modern civil code, the end result was very disappointing, to be honest, and completely not acceptable for us. In 2019, we made our position very clear at the first public discussion regarding the civil code with the EU office in Kosovo, Kosovo institutional stakeholders, and also with the team of civil code, that we express our discontent regarding the legal provision included in the draft of civil code regulating the institution of marriage. So I really want to quote now our constitution laws regarding this matter. In our understanding, this provision were not in compliance with the Constitution of Kosovo. For example, Article 37, right to marriage and family, states that based on free will, everyone enjoys the right to marry and the right to have a family as provided by law. Second, marriage and divorce are regulated by law and are based on the equality of spouses. As you can see here, it's not making references to a specific gender. So adopts gender neutral language. Additionally, Article 1128 of Book 4 says that all persons enjoy equal treatment of rights and obligations set forth in this book. There shall be no direct or indirect discrimination against any person or persons based on sex, age, language, mental or physical disability, sexual orientation, and so on. After the first public consultation held on February 2019, we drafted the concrete recommendation for regulation of the civil code of the same-sex marriage and submitted to the working group. So different civil society organizations, starting from CL, CSGD, Civil Rights Defenders, Youth Initiative for Human Rights, Kosovo Women's Network, and others. Unfortunately, none of the recommendations were taken into consideration and no feedback was given on the reason why the recommendations have not been taken into account. Due to political instability during August, June 2020, the draft of civil code was presented to the Kosovo Parliament later on October 2020 on the first reading. Currently, based on the regulation of the Kosovo Parliament, the draft civil code is sent back to the government for further revisions. In light of these new circumstances, and in order to push forward the inclusion of same-sex marriage in the civil code, we called all the relevant stakeholders to contribute in reopening the debate on the changes that needed to take place in the current draft of Civil Code in order to ensure that the draft is in full compliance with the Kosovo constitutions and provides guarantees for same-sex couples in Kosovo. On April 2021, Ministry of Justice nominated the internal working group who will review pending issues raised by different stakeholders. So I just want to make one thing sure that the new draft of Civil Code, it was really not good done by a working group, not only for LGBTI persons, but also at the fact that a lot of women's rights, Roma, Ashkali, Egyptian rights, children, and so on. So there was really a lot of topics that didn't cover very well human rights in general. In this context, Ministry of Justice has organized 5 meetings with relevant stakeholders, and one of the meetings it was dedicated only for the same-sex marriage. But unfortunately, even though we presented our recommendation to this day, we still don't have any information if our recommendation were taken into consideration. The draft of Civil Code was foreseen to proceed at Parliament this October. That didn't happen. In my understanding as an activist, I strongly believe that the government didn't want it because, as you may know, last Sunday we had the election. They didn't want it to go publicly and speak about the marriage during the election time. So I think there wasn't enough courage to continue with the Civil Code. But of course, as activists, as civil society organization, we'll undertake concrete action that will create opportunities and contribute to regulate the same-sex marriage within the Civil Code. If our recommendation will not be included within family law, because for us it's not acceptable to have a special law and not be included within Civil Code, then the only thing that we can do, and for sure we'll do, is that we'll send the whole Civil Code at the Constitutional Court.
Thank you so much, Vlad, for sharing this process and how it looked in Kosovo. Tell me, I mean, you're saying that, are you expecting that after the election, the government will speak more loudly about the changing of the Civil Code and inclusion of the same-sex unions? And what is in general, how is the climate there? How is the climate? What are the LGBT communities' thoughts about the same-sex union being regulated? What is the other NGOs, human rights, women rights organizations? Is there any consensus on jointly approaching this topic?
Understood. So first, of course, the challenges of LGBTI people continue to be many, especially with the pandemic in these last 2 years. The life of LGBTI persons has become extra difficult, but this is a right that LGBTI people should enjoy without acceptation. So I think that in general, the support for this process has been quite satisfactory from the LGBTI people themselves, as well as from the civil society organization, which have been very vocal, to be honest, by supporting us in various reaction regarding the family law or including the same-sex marriage. In the other hand, I do not consider that the international partners have been in the same spirit. For example, so some with whom we have lobbied closely on various issues for the protection of LGBTI people, but during this process have been quite silent. I don't know the reason if you ask me. We understand the Kosovo mindset is very problematic toward LGBTI persons, but we strongly believe that this does not mean that we can bargain with human rights. And we should use, each of us should use our privileged position to speak publicly regarding the same-sex marriage in Kosovo. So regarding the institution, honestly, there is not much to say. I mean, the fact that we are still talking about Civil Code that it sought in 2014, that means that there's not willingness to put in the paper protection of LGBTI rights in general, not only the same-sex marriage. But I really want to use this opportunity and to say something that no state, Kosovo, Serbia, Albania, and other Western Balkan countries can move forward without first giving priority to its own people. Simple as that.
Hmm. Hmm. Thank you so much for sharing this with us, Blair. It really means a lot to hear what are the experiences from the region in that sense. Now with us we have Stefan Sparavalo. He's from Das ist an organization, and he'll be sharing a little bit more about the situation in Serbia. We know that Serbia has drafted law from 2010, and we have been all part of various working groups nationally in terms of advocating for the same-sex recognition of the same-sex partnerships. So Stefan, can you share a little bit more what's going on now? We know that you've been a part of the working group, and what is the status now of the same-sex partnership law in Serbia?
Okay, so hello everyone. First and foremost, I must laugh a bit when I was listening about, the election processes in Montenegro and in Kosovo, because, in Serbia virtually does nothing. Depends on elections, because we have a very strong party that captured basically entire state, entire political system. So no political repercussions, electoral changes does not make a change for us. So, well, basically in brief, that you have said last year, after last year's elections, that was boycotted by opposition. So we have like 7/8 of seats in the parliament reserved for a ruling party. We, like the new government, appointed the Ministry for Human Rights and Social Dialogue, and they have established a working group on drafting same-sex partnership law. So, there were briefly from February to May, we had several meetings. We were working together, like members of civil society, experts, independent human rights bodies and institutions. We were working on drafting the law, and simply entire story about the law vanished. It's once in one interview, I think it was like 5 months ago, president said that he won't put his signature on the law after its adoption in the parliament, and out of a sudden, we do not know when it will be put into parliament for deliberation, for voting. We don't know when it will be on a daily schedule of the government of Republic of Serbia. When you're reaching out to a minister, she would virtually say that she has no clue whatsoever. It's up to government. When you're reaching to government, they're not saying a word. So this is how it is, and we can only hear rumors from people close to governmental officials that are saying that they're waiting for the next elections, which will take place in next year, because it is another bizarre situation. Because we had parliamentary elections last year, but they will cancel the government and start for re-elections because they want to match elections, on a Belgrade level, presidential elections and parliamentary elections. So I guess they can be 100% sure that they will occupy all the seats and all the important places. So this is the information that we are having, that they will probably opt to adopt given law next year, but it's just the only information we had, So like we were speaking about how civil society united on this occasion, how we were acting jointly in terms of comments for draft law, but our force, irrespective of our willingness to cooperate, willingness to be a partners of the state, it just doesn't mean a thing, because our political situation is so damaged, our political system is so damaged, and it's all by the will of one party, not to say one man, and it just all depends about it. We had comments from Council of Europe. We had some sort of a support from I don't know, like foreign embassies, Western embassies, but it's just a lip service. It doesn't mean a thing. So the law will be adopted not when we unite our forces more or some else, but when current political establishment judges it is it won't do any harm for their persons on the elections.
Yeah, I figured that. So one of the things that apart from what you already mentioned, is that LGBTI movement in Serbia is somehow united and it doesn't oppose each other in terms of advocating for the adoption of the same-sex partnership law. But there is one other thing that it stirred a little bit of controversy, is that development of the law and not pushing the law which came from the civil society organizations. That's one part. And the other conversation, second part of the question, first question is what happened with that? And the second question is, we already heard what were the experiences from Montenegro, and we know what we could expect from the law in terms of if the law is adopted today and becomes fully able to be working in 1 year. So what do you expect to see in the future in this particular senses, in terms of that 1 year that will pass?
That's a good question, but still, I'm so not into forecasting, into prognosis, because I firmly believe that the law will be adopted this year, because, we have a unique situation when this catch-all ruling party, progressive party of the Vučić, that, can discipline the parliament, because that's the first time in a while that we don't have far radical right parties in the parliament, far right homophobic parties, because they haven't trespassed the threshold. So I thought that it's a stable climate for adopting such a law, but you see obviously that it didn't happen. So I cannot forecast. I don't know what will be done. I know just for sure that in the current draft, in the most recent draft that we reflected about that implementation will be in a year, and we had representatives from all ministries during these meetings that basically they said that they will work on implementation in their respective competencies, but really God knows what will happen. And in terms of your first question, we received from respective ministry, we just received some sort of a document that is called, it's just the document, pre-draft document. It's it's a document we will be working on. So there was no room for anyone to reach out to ministry and said, let's start from the draft law created by Labris 10 years ago, or that was revised last year. There was no room for that, because we don't leverage any sort of a political power that we can reach out to ministry as such. So we had either option not to cooperate at all, or to cooperate under their rules of engagement. So I believe this was the only choice. So this, as I stated at the beginning, we are we are not living in a country where there is a political competition. So I guess we have to act, we have to eat, these leftovers of breadcrumbs that is government offering to us, and we have no room for any sort of any sort of power, even though we are united right now.
Yeah, thank you. So I have just one additional question for you. We are seeing that there is huge baby boom in Serbia. Couples are having kids. Does the law offers any protection for the parents? And what do you see in the future happening in that sense?
Actually, yes, there were stipulations that were tackling, rainbow families, and especially families with kids, especially because a member of the working group was a lawyer that was working with Labris and Getan, and actually she is engaged in rainbow family. She has a partner that has a kid, so basically they're living as a lesbian couple with kids. So, and a lot of stipulations, a lot of articles from the draft law were actually pretty progressive in terms that family law would be applied in particular circumstances regarding when it tackles the children. Of course, just same-sex adoption is omitted. It's out of the question. So basically, two issues are out of the question. It's not called marriage because there is a constitutional ban, and no children adoption is on the table at the moment. So actually, several stipulation. I was quite surprised, and members of representatives from Ministry for Family and Child Care, even though it is led by ultra-nationalist guy, they were pretty progressive and they were on the side of civil society when it comes to these particular matters. But still, we don't know whether Ministry listened to. At the final place, they have listened to comments from civil society and especially comments from Council of Europe from their recommendations, because several recommendations of Council of Europe actually tackled the issues of caring for children in rainbow families. And actually, the last time when we spoke with the ministry and asked minister what's going on, when it will be adopted, when it will be upon the daily schedule of a government, she said that current draft law is being aligned with recommendations from Council of Europe. So if we believe her, which I will not be particularly optimistic about, I think that stipulations regarding same-sex families, regarding same-sex couples that having already a family will be in line with the family law, thus will be pretty settled. But of course, when it comes to implementation, God knows what will happen. What will happen in a smaller place where homophobia is particularly ubiquitous. God knows what will happen, and but I guess it's a next step that we will be worrying about. We cannot worry about implementation when we have no clue whatsoever when it will be adopted at the first place. So pretty obscure and not so optimistic state of affairs in Serbia.
Yeah. Well, it goes as it goes. Thank you so much, Stefan, for sharing your thoughts with us. Next with us, we have Daniel Martinovic from Croatia. What we know is that from 2014, Croatia had adopted same-sex partnership law, but we are seeing the progress being made in other directions. As we already spoke a little bit more about it, is the rainbow families. Adoption of adoption is becoming a huge challenge throughout the region where the same-sex partnership laws are being united. Daniel, can you share a little bit more on what's going on in Croatia?
It's a very broad question, but yeah, so basically...
yeah.
But basically, so we have this law on life partnership for now for 7 years so far, and more than 400 couples got married, registered for life partnerships so far. And well, as you mentioned, in Serbia, more and more couples are having children. The situation is that the law covers some of the parental rights and some of the family rights, also in this regard of children rights. But it was at the time written very vaguely because the government at the time in 2014 didn't have the political will to go for full marriage equality. In Croatia, we don't have a ban in our constitution. We have a definition of marriage in a constitution as a union between a man and a woman, but also our constitutional court and some other courts interpret this not as a ban, but just like a statement. So it's also, we will see in the following years how much of a legal claim this can have on any kind of same-sex relationship rights or definition. But anyhow, not to talk too long about this. The main problem with the family rights that we have at the moment is that the law didn't define some of the matters very clearly in the law of life partnership. So there is no mention of foster care, there is no mention of adoption, and there is no mention of children that have two same-sex parents in their birth certificates, because we in Croatia still have the field's mother and father in their birth certificates, but in some other European countries, and Croatia is a member of the European Union, you have birth certificates where you can have two female names or two male names. You can have two fathers, two mothers, or whatever. You have children that are born in the US via various medically assisted insemination methods and stuff like that. And when they come to Croatia, and since if you have if one of your parents is Croatian, you have the right to Croatian citizenship. But we have cases where you have children that are born that have either, for example, one Croatian father, one American father, and they have only American citizenship because they are born in these states. But Croatia doesn't want to grant them Croatian citizenship because there is no mother in the birth certificate, and they cannot get their Croatian birth certificates in this way. Also, you have a situation where you have, I don't know, we have a Spanish and a Croatian national in the same situation, stuff like that. But also you have mothers, where you have two mothers in a birth certificate from the UK, and again, the children don't get Croatian citizenship because of the lack of this male figure in the documents. Again, there is the mention of joint adoption by same-sex couples in any kind of laws, and because we have different laws that take care of different situations. So adoption is regulated by family law, and there is a special law, especially on foster care. In those laws, there is no statement that life partnerships can adopt children or they can become foster care providers, but you can do it as a single person. So in practice, we have single LGBTI, we have unmarried LGBTI persons that are adopting or becoming foster care providers, and they are getting married afterwards. They're adopting children or becoming foster care providers, and then their partners are having this second parent adoption that we have in the life partnership law. So in many cases, we have people that are actively trying, to find a way to navigate these laws and to find legal loopholes, which all leads to legal insecurities. And people are getting rejected in some cases by the state officials, because one state official says you cannot do it, the another says you can do it, then we have to sue, then we have to go through a couple of years legal battles and processes. But so far also we have been very successful, because at the beginning we thought that we should go all the way to the European Court of Human Rights for some clarifications, but in Croatia both the administrative court and the constitutional court, the highest court in the country, said that same-sex couples should have access to every service as regular married couples, heterosexual married couples have. So far, I think it's good, but again, we have cases of discrimination even that are still perpetuated by state officials that are conservative or remnants of far-right parties that was in power for a couple of years ago and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. So Daniel, you raised your hand. Do you have any questions?
Yes, but should I wait for the end? I forgot that we have.
Yeah. Okay.
Space at the end. Just wanted to ask when I can ask.
Yeah, you can ask later on question, but if you want, you can also, you can ask the questions in the chat. We will go back to the chat and check the questions. Apart from that, you can, if you're following us and sharing us on your comments and thoughts on your social media, please use the hashtag ERACON2021. Yeah. So Daniel, Rainbow Families, we followed the case of two fathers having won the case in Croatia. Did that make, how much noise did that make, and then did that change anything?
Well, from one side, yes, it did change the legal framework so that now we are sure 100% that same-sex couples in Croatia that are married, that are registered as life partners, can become foster care providers, and they can adopt, even though for the adoption, the ministry has issued their own appeal, but we will see at the second level court. But I think more important is the visibility that we had from those two fathers that went publicly to the media, and the whole debate that was present for the last 3 years in the Croatian society about how much does sexuality have anything to do with your parental skills. Because you had on one side this gay same-sex couple that wanted to become foster care providers and to adopt. And you had on the other side this whole conservative movement that said, they are unfit to be parents because there is no mother figure, because they are gay, because whatever. But in the end, the debate went down to the fact that they wanted to help, and they want to help children from foster care homes to have a home. And we managed to mobilize this whole adoption and foster care NGOs in Croatia to be on our side and to say that it's better for a child to be with any kind of parents, so their sexual orientation or gender identity isn't important, rather for them to be in foster homes or for them to be left alone, because all those conservative NGOs weren't doing anything about them having campaigns for adopting, them having campaigns for providing foster care, while we were the ones saying that you have over 3,000 children in Croatia. I mean, Croatia has a population of 3 million, so it's not a big country, but you have over 3,000 children in foster care system in that they are not at any kind of homes or with any kind of parents, but they are just living in foster homes, popularly called sirotishta in our region, and that they would be better with a foster care provider or better to be adopted. And you have this whole population of LGBTI individuals, LGBTI couples in Croatia that want to adopt and they want to become foster care providers, but the state isn't providing it. And in the end, the state changed also their narrative, because in the first couple of years they were saying that LGBTI people are unfit to be parents because of their sexual orientation, and then they change it. I mean, it is still really a stupid argumentation, but they said that the Croatian society would discriminate those children in the schools or in the kindergartens or whatever because they have same-sex parents. But again, this is something that we can all work together as our Croatian society, rather than just saying, gays or lesbians are unfit to become parents or they don't have parental skills. So I would say that all this debate that we had and all of this public discourse that we had about adoption and foster care by same-sex couples in Croatia really helped us with the visibility and really helped us with changing the narrative from naked asses on rainbow prides and all these stereotypes that the general Croatian population has about LGBT people to the level that we now are discussing. Does your sexual orientation or gender identity has anything to do with parental capabilities? And we also managed then to mobilize researchers from the Croatian Academic Society to do some research about rainbow families. We also managed, to have conferences about this and to have public events about this. And it really helped us, to have a better advocacy point. And now, hopefully, some of the laws will be changed because we managed, to move away and sway this public discourse.
Well, we are hearing that you're working a lot of things parallel to your to your initiatives. But tell us how we as activists from the region could support you in that way.
Well, I really, you as always, you can share this information, and the thing is that there are many cross-border families in the region. There are also, as I said, more than 400 couples in Croatia are in life partnerships, so they got married. But many of them are one national is from Croatia, one is from the other ex-Yugoslavian countries. And I think that this is also shows how much everything is interconnected and how all these legal battles will be similar, both in Croatia, Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and other countries. So I think the thing that we have to do is to stay connected and to share our experiences and to share our stories, but also all the other, I would say, parenting issues that you have. From one side, how do you battle discrimination in school or in kindergartens? How will the teachers react when you have two fathers coming to school with their child? But also parental skills and parental other resources. Our association published a picture book on depicting same-sex couples with children, because there are none in Croatian or in other languages that are understood in this region that would talk about this. But it's not just about, for kindergarten children, but you don't have anything in the school curriculum. In every example that you have in school, you have like a couple in maths, in history, in language school. So we also have to do more work to try to change the discourse and to include more LGBTI topics also in the school curriculum.
Thank you so much for sharing it all with us, Daniel. Now
You're
with us,
welcome.
we have Deanini from Alianza in Albania. So we're seeing the new developments in Albania, and although the same-sex partnership is not recognized, we are seeing that the one particular case is becoming more and more visible and raising the visibility of the same-sex partnership in unions, and also reflecting the rainbow families that way. Could you share a little bit more there with us, what's going on and how the case is progressing in Albania?
Yes, thank you, Elena. And first, let me thank each of the panelists today whom are sharing the domestic challenges that rainbow families are actually facing across the region. As you mentioned, rainbow families are now a reality even within the Albanian context, as last year a lesbian couple became the parents of two baby girls. It was after this moment, which to our information is actually the first of its kind in Albania, then that the concept of LGBTI parenting is no longer an abstraction, but is actually an indisputable fact, which unfortunately continues to remain legally unrecognized. The children born before a year continue to remain unregistered as children born in the Republic of Albania, but by their two respective mothers. And this lack of registration is actually affecting them not to benefit from the guarantees that Albanian law offers for its citizens, starting from their birth registration, the benefit of the childbirth bonus, vaccination, and them accessing public free healthcare services. Actually, the violation of these fundamental rights in this case generates from the lack of legally recognized civil unions between the baby's mothers. Although the Republic of Albania Constitution provides for the right of everyone to marry and to have children, on the other hand, the Albanian Family Code reserves this right of co-parenting only to heterosexual couples and their children. And so this is very restrictive for same-sex couples and the children born in rainbow families. And these are actually two chain issues: the lack of legal recognition for same-sex unions in Albania, and the inability to register the children born by two parents of same sex. As previously noted in the case law of the European Court of Human Rights, this lack of legal provisions actually equates the existence of discriminatory laws in a given context in terms of very irreversible consequences that these lacking provisions have on the lives of the individuals. Also, in the latest report of the European Commission against racism and intolerance for Albania, is highlighted that this lack of legal recognition for same-sex unions in Albania has actually several negative consequences and results in other violations for many other social rights of LGBTI peoples, but also for children born in these families. The report actually recommended to Albanian government to draft and to adopt inclusive legal framework, and it was quite obligatory in this sense. because it stressed the importance of promoting equal rights for all citizens, regardless their sexual orientation, gender identity, or sex characteristics. What we are doing currently at the Alliance is that we are working on a strategic litigation process and strategy, which aims to create a clear working plan, a step-by-step working plan, in order for us to achieve recognition for same-sex couples and to enable the birth registration for children born in rainbow families through strategic litigation. So what we are trying to do is to exhaust all the administrative level complaint system and all the levels of the judiciary in Albania in order for our application to be admissible later by the European Court of Human Rights. This is our main aim at the moment. The final goal is to bring legal cases, changes and amendments through strategic litigation and the jurisprudence of Strasbourg. Simultaneously, we are also working on a public communication strategy, since legal changes are not the only challenge that rainbow families are currently facing within the Albanian framework. And we hope that through this communication strategy and through the litigation process, we will be able to change the discourse and the hearts and minds of Albanian public towards rainbow families. Because as I mentioned before, legal changes are not the only crucial and very important element of this whole process.
Thank you so much, Dea, for sharing all these wonderful things that you are doing right now. Tell us a little bit more about what is the climate now in Republic of Albania in terms of recognition of the same-sex unions. How do the other LGBT organizations, are they cooperating with you in terms of developing the strategic litigation cases? What is the government, I mean, presumably they already know. What is their reaction? Is there any possibility of opening new dialogues with you?
Well, I have to say and to accept that the political climate in Albania for the moment and the political will towards providing legal recognition for same-sex couples and rainbow families is inexistent for the moment, and we don't even have an open debate on this issue. Regarding our cooperation with other partner organizations working on LGBTI rights here in Albania, we have to say that this process of strategic litigation is completely undertaken by the Alliance Against Discrimination of LGBTIs in Albania, but we are trying to establish cooperation with each organization, especially in terms that later on during this process, we are going to need practical cases and we are going to need people whom will be open to file applications and to commit strategic litigation for their cases. So we are currently trying to have meetings and to present the facts that we are doing this work towards strategic litigation in order to change the legislation, since political will is inexistent, and we thought that this would be the only way, kind of a fast one, to achieve full recognition for LGBTI couples and children born in these families in Albania. So we remain very open to cooperations on this process, but actually I also have to admit the fact that we just started this litigation process, so we are still and continuously exploring new opportunities of collaboration with national partner organizations, but also with international allies on this field.
Thank you so much, Dea, for joining us and sharing these wonderful news and initiatives that you have in Albania. What we already heard is so far is that we are having so many strategic litigation cases. We're having so many initiatives throughout the region. And what we heard is so far that we are supporting each other through as the organizations and as a movement. But throughout the years, we have been privileged to have on all ERA conferences and events, one particular group that is supporting us and supporting directly LGBTI parents and family members. And they have been so far situated from Turkey. The organization is called Listag. And we have today with us Hasan Metehan from Listag. So we have been heard how the situation is affecting, how this work is affecting the activists and affecting the community in general. And we would like to hear from you, Metehan, how do you see the situation? What is the situation in Turkey, and how things are in general in Turkey, and how are you? We haven't heard from you in a long time.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Mete.
As there is a chance to speak in Turkish.
Yes, there is a chance for you to speak in Turkish.
Translation, and I checked the translation. It's going very well. Thank you. So please switch to English Turkishçe. Tekrar merhaba herkese. Özellikle bu önemli toplantıyı organize ettiği için ERA'ya çok teşekkürler en başta. Sonra hep sonuçta söylemeyi unutuyorum son kısımda. Onun için baştan söyleyeyim dedim. Bugün burada iki şapkamla bulunuyorum. Bir tanesi hemcins evliliğine sahip, İspanya'da sahip birisi olarak. Çünkü 2017 yılında 22 yıldır beraber olduğum erkek arkadaşımla iki Türk vatandaşı olarak ve İspanyol vatandaşı olmadan evlenmeyi başardık. Tabii ki bütün bu konuşulanlar beni bir kere kişisel seviyede kalpten etkiliyor. Ayrıca bir gün tekrar ülkelerinize ziyarette bulunduğumda orada evli bir çift olarak tanınmanın da hakkını, konforunu yaşamak istediğim için. Türkiye için bunu söylemek için çok çok erken. Diğer şapkamsa, evet, Yelena'nın söylediği gibi gökkuşağı aileleri değil ama 2008'den beri kurucularından olduğum, bugün hala koordinatörlüğünü sürdürdüğüm Listag, LGBT Aileleri ve Yakınları Derneği'nin temsilcisi olarak konuşuyorum. Yalnız değilim. Bugün dinleyiciler arasında birçok ebeveynimiz var Türkiye'den, bizleri dinleyen. Benim eksik kaldığım, atladığım kısımlarda eminim soru cevapta onlar da söz alıp eklemeler yapacaklardır. Teşekkürler. Şimdi söylediğim gibi hemcins evliliğini Türkiye'de bugün konuşmaktan fersah fersah uzağız. Çünkü sadece LGBTİ artılar için değil, tüm toplum için temel hak ve özgürlüklerin kullanılması büyük bir mesele. Kullanamıyoruz. En temelde toplanma özgürlüğü, ifade özgürlüğü, bu toplumun geneli için zaten kısıtlanmış. Yasama, yürütme ve yargının, hatta medyanın tamamen bir parti ve bir başkan tarafından ele geçirildiği bir sistem içerisinde yaşıyoruz. Bildiğiniz gibi hani söylememe gerek yok. Yıllardır Pride'larımızı, onur yürüyüşlerimizi yapamıyoruz. Ve geçen bu süreç, özellikle son 2 yıla baktığımda, bunun içine pandemiyi de, Covid'i de dahil ettiğimizde tüm alanlar kısıtlanmış ve yasaklanmış durumda. İktidar pandemiyi de çok güzel bir şekilde toplanma özgürlüğünün önünde her türlü muhalefet için bir bahane olarak kullandı. Kendi organizasyonları, kendi yaptığı etkinlikler dışında. Ve tabii ki çok acı da bir süreç geçirdik. Biliyorsunuz Türkiye İstanbul Sözleşmesi'nden geri çekildi. Ne yazık ki bu sözleşmeden geri çekilme sürecini tamamıyla LGBT meselesine, LGBT artı meselesine indirgeyen bir anlayış ve propagandayla karşılaştık. Bunlar da kafi olmadı, yetmedi. Üstüne sistematik, örgütlü bir şekilde devletten LGBT artıları hedef gösteren, ötekileştiren politikalar, demeçler dinledik. Bu yeri geldi Diyanet İşleri Başkanı'ndan oldu, yeri geldi İçişleri Bakanı'ndan oldu, hatta Cumhurbaşkanı'ndan dahi bunları izlemek, bunlara maruz kalmak durumundaydık. Tabii ki yani bütün bunlar sadece LGBT artıları değil, LGBT artıların ailelerini ve yakınlarını da derinden etkiledi. İnsanların belki cesaretlerini, çocuklarını kabullenme süreçlerini kırdı. Ve LGBT artının temelde teröristleştirildiği, bir anlamda kriminalize edildiği bir süreç yaşadık ve yaşıyoruz da. Görünen o ki iktidar, yani şu anda var olan ittifak, muhafazakarlardan ve milliyetçilerden oluşan ittifak, oy oranları düştükçe de daha sağda olan, daha radikal sağda olan partileri ve onların söylemlerini dinlemek, onları da mutlu etmek ve onların oylarını bu ittifaka dahil etmek için de bu politikaları sürdürecek. İstanbul Sözleşmesi'nden geri çekilmek de böyle bir şeydi. Çünkü o radikal sağ partilerin talebiydi. Ayasofya'nın ibadete açılması da bu tip talepleri karşılamak içindi. Her anda LGBTİ artı derneklerinin kapatılmasına dair talepler, çünkü bunlar söyleniyor, dillendiriliyor. İttifakın iktidarda kalabilmek için kullanabileceği, politika alanı olarak tanımlayabileceği alanlar olarak gözüküyor. Ve öbür taraftan da bir bakıyoruz, muhalefetin oyları oldukça yükseliyor. Son anketlere göre, yani muhalefet eğer bir arada kalmayı becerebilirse iktidara çok ciddi olarak talip görünüyor. Ve bu da tabii ki tahmin edeceğiniz gibi iktidarı daha da sertleştiriyor, daha da konsolidasyona, oylarını bir arada tutabilecek politikalara yönlendiriyor. Böyle bir hani size genel durum üzerinden bir özet yapmak istedim. Tabii ki beklediğimiz seçimler bundan en az bir yıl sonra olabilir ve bu tabii ki bir yeni anayasa yapma sürecini ve tüm hak örgütleri için, yani sadece LGBT artılar için tüm hak örgütleri, sivil toplum için de yeni bir sürecin müjdelecisi oluyor. Yani buradan da bir şekilde sürece umutlu bakabiliriz. Peki biz ne yaptık? Yani çocukları LGBT artı olan örgütler, dernekler olarak ne yaptık? Bu arada bizim örgütlenmelerimiz İstanbul'u aşıyor. İzmir'de, Antalya'da, Ankara'da örgütlenmeyi başarmış bir grubuz. Hatta Ankara'daki örgütlenmemiz de dernek oldu. Bizimle çok yakın bir zamanda, 2 yıl önce. Onlar da ERA'nın parçası. Buradan Ankara'dan da ebeveynler var. Onlar da muhtemelen kendi adlarına bir şeyler söyleyeceklerdir. Pandemi ve bu son 2 yılda yaşanan süreç içerisinde bir kere herkesin eve kapanmasıyla birlikte hayat herkese kolay olmadı. Hepiniz biliyorsunuz, özellikle LGBT artılar için. Bizim danışma hattımız inanılmaz çalışmaya başladı. Özellikle ebeveynlerden gelen telefonlarla, ama LGBT artılar da bize ulaşmayı tercih edebiliyorlar bazen. Ve şöyle bir gerçekle karşılaştık. siz de biliyorsunuz bu gerçeği, açılma yaşları çok düştü. Artık 12-13 yaşından itibaren çocuklar açılıyorlar. Hiç de gizlemeye gerek duymuyorlar. Yaşasın ki Netflix var, YouTube var. Bizim jenerasyonlarımızdan çok farklı, benim bulunduğum jenerasyondan çok farklı. Hatta ben kendimi biraz dinozor olarak görüyorum. Çünkü LGBT harfleriyle açılan kimse kalmadı. Çocuklar artık çok çok yeni tanımlarla bizim artının içine koyduğumuz işte non-binary ile, cinsiyet akışkanla, gri aseksüelle hepsiyle geliyorlar. Zaman zaman benim de sürekli Wikipedia'yı açıp ya bu neydi diye kontrol etmem gerekiyor. Bu çok büyük bir enerji. Ve şey de çok değişti tahmin ederseniz ki çocuklar gençleştikçe yeni gelen ailelerin de jenerasyonu değişti. Artık çok daha eğitimli, birçok şeye vakıf, becerikli ebeveynler aile örgütlerine katılmaya başladı. Bu bizim için bir avantaj. Ben hep meselelere gördüğünüz gibi fırsatlar ve güçlü yanlarımız tarafından bakmaya çalışıyorum. Çünkü eğer öbür tarafa bakarsak, hani Nietzsche'nin söylediği gibi karanlığa baktıkça karanlık da size geri bakmaya başlar. Bilmiyorum çevirisi zor olacak mı ama bunun önüne geçmek lazım ve hep artı yanlara, önümüzdeki fırsatlara ve çıkan fırsatları da bizim güçlü yanlarımıza çevirmeye çalışıyoruz. Neler yaptık? Bir kere pandemi döneminden başlangıcından itibaren uluslararası webinarlar yapmaya başladık. Hatta biliyorum ki yani dünyadaki ebeveyn örgütleri içerisinde de ilk uluslararası webinarları yapıp ta Güney Amerika'dan Hindistan'a kadar ve evet Batı Balkanlardan ailelerin de katılımıyla uluslararası webinarlar düzenlemeye başladık. Çünkü Zoom ve bu tercüme olanağı hepimize çok büyük imkanlar sağladı. Sadece uluslararası anlamda değil, Türkiye içerisinde de biz eskiden İstanbul'daki ofisimizi açıp toplantıya kim gelir diye beklerdik. Ama artık fark ettik ki aylık yaptığımız düzenli toplantılarda da, haftalık yaptığımız düzenli toplantılarda da niye İstanbul'la kısıtlı kalalım ki? Türkiye'nin örgütlenmediğimiz illerinden de ebeveynlerin katılabileceği birliktelikler, organizasyonlar düzenleyebiliriz ve yaptık bunları. Özellikle Pride evet yürüyüş yapamıyoruz, onur yürüyüşü yapamıyoruz ama onur yürüyüşünü mümkün olduğu kadar sosyal medya üzerinden örgütlemek için elimizden geleni yaptık. Tüm LGBTİ artı örgütleriyle beraber. Listak olarak bizim zaten gökkuşağından hikayeler diye LGBTİ artı ebeveynlerin hikayelerinden oluşan bir kitabımız vardı. Yakın zamanda buna LGBTİ artıların çocukluk hikayelerini anlattıkları kendimi bildim bileli Ever Since I Could Remember diye çevirebileceğimiz kitabımızı ekledik. Çünkü bunun şöyle bir gündemde yeri vardı. Türkiye'de LGBTİ artı çocuk yoktur. LGBT kelimesiyle çocuk kelimesini yan yana getiremezsiniz tartışmalarına. Getiremez miyiz, getirir miyiz de şöyle cevap verdik. LGBT artılar söylesin çocukları var mıydı, çocukluk hikayeleri var mıydı diye. Tüm bu kitapları özellikle basında, YouTube'da, çünkü biliyorsunuz Türkiye'de konvansiyonel medya tamamen iktidarın elinde olduğu için muhalif medya özellikle YouTube üzerinden çalışıyor. Ve YouTube üzerinden ciddi takipçisi olan televizyon kanalları ve gazeteciler var. Kitaplarımızdan bu insanlara gönderdik ve Pride ayında bizim adımıza konuşmalarını istedik. Yani biz konuşamıyorsak onlar bizim adımıza konuşsunlar, sesimizi duyursunlar diye. Kendi podcast yayınlarımıza başladık, kendi canlı yayınlarımıza başladık. Özellikle Ankara'daki Gala Derneği düzenli olarak bu canlı yayınları konuk çağırarak, uzman konuk çağırarak devam ettiriyor. Ve tabii ki yaptığımız projeler altında grupların içerisinde LGBTİ artı ebeveyni örgütlenmelerin içerisindeki annelerimizi, babalarımızı bilgi ve beceri anlamında güçlendirecek eğitimler yaptık. tahmin ediyorsunuz yani webinar ortamında bu eğitimler bir de peş peşe geldiğinde ne kadar yorucu oluyor. Ama inanılmaz bir dirayetle ve kendilerine adamışlıkla bu eğitimlere devam ettiler. Hala da bunları yapmaya devam ediyoruz. Sanırım en etkileyici yaptığımız şeylerden biri şu oldu. Biz bu çocukları 18 yaş altı olan ebeveynleri Listak çatısı altında yeni bir grup altında buluşturduk. Adı Listak Junior. Çocuk çalışmak, LGBTİ artı çalışmak Türkiye'de mümkün değil. Çok tehlikeli. Direkt hani derneğin kapatılma nedeni olabilir. Ama biz çocuk çalışmıyoruz. Biz çocukları olan ebeveynlere yardımcı oluyoruz diyerek muhteşem bir yaz kampı düzenledik. Kısıtlı imkanlarla çok kısa bir zamanla düzenlediğimiz kampa 40 kişi katıldı. Yani bunların yaklaşık 25-30'u ebeveynse geri kalanı 18 yaş altı çocuk. Anneleriyle babalarıyla gelen ve çocuklara yönelik bir yapılandırılmış eğitim programı haricinde kampın içinde ebeveynlere de yönelik ERA'dan öğrendiğimiz open space teknolojiyi kullanarak çok da keyifli, insanların tatilini de bozmayan bir program geliştirdik. Ve şu anda yani o kampta olabilmenizi, o çocukların birbirlerine sarılmalarını, birbirlerini bulmuşluklarını, çünkü özellikle bir de bu çocukların pandemi döneminde okuldan ve arkadaşlık ilişkilerinden çok uzak kaldığını ve çok daraldığını düşünürseniz, orada kendileri gibi insan bulabilmenin keyfini yaşadılar. Biz de gözyaşları içerisinde açıkçası onların bu mutluluğuna paydaş olduk. Şimdiden daha ne zaman bir sonraki yaz kampı demiyorlar, kışın buluşmayacak mıyız diye soruyorlar bize. Kış kampı talep ediyorlar. Yaptığımız yine güzel işlerden biri bizim Listak dostları adını verdiğimiz Friends of Listak bir alliance, bir ittifak grubumuz var. Bunun içinde 30'a yakın global şirket var. Ve bu şirketlerin çeşitlilik ve kapsayıcılık politikaları altında şirketlerini LGBTİ artı dostu yerler haline getirebilmeleri ve LGBTİ artı istihdamını arttırabilmenin yollarını aradığımız hem eğitimler hem etkinlikler yapıyoruz. Sanırım önümüzdeki yılda bir hani Türkiye'de iş alanında LGBTİ artı dostu şirketleri açık açık bir araya getirebildiğimiz bir konferans mümkün olmasa da çeşitlilik ve kapsayıcılık, diversity and inclusion başlığı altında yine birçok şirketi bir araya getireceğimiz bir konferansı planlıyoruz. Ve bir yakın hedefimizde karar vericilerinin önüne götürecek, şöyle Türkiye'de kapsayıcı olarak LGBT artı aileleri ne yaşıyor üzerine yapılmış bir geniş araştırma yok. Bu araştırmayı umarım bu sene İstanbul'dan önemli bir üniversiteden, Sabancı Üniversitesi'nden Gender bölümünden ekiple başlatıyoruz. ERA değerlendirmeleri içerisinde bunu Amari ile de konuşmuştuk. Bu araştırmanın Batı Balkan ülkelerinde de çevrilip uygulanması ve çok geniş kapsamlı bir yayının çıkarılması hayalimiz, hedefimiz. Benden şimdilik bu kadar. Eğer senin başka bir sorun yoksa Yelena.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Metehan, for sharing with us what is the situation in Turkey like and what are you doing. It's magnificent work that you are doing, and thank you so much for sharing with us. What I would like to do now is to open up a floor for all your questions that you have. So feel free to either raise your hand or write the questions in the chat, and we can talk a little bit more. As I recall, Daniel had some question.
Yes. Thank you. My question is for Daniel, because we are at the moment having the same problem that you were talking about, problem of the people who are having a children and are not able to get a citizenship for their children in Montenegro at the moment. We have several cases, and after 3 years of trying to get a citizenship to those children from the Ministry of Interior, we decided to go to the ombudsperson, and we are having the case now at the moment there, and we are waiting for the decision. Can you tell me, did you go to the court, to the any equality body, or do you have any information that might be helpful for us in that regard?
So
thank you.
So thanks for the question. So we have different cases where we have only mothers in the birth certificate and only fathers. For the only mothers situation, the Croatian government said that the non-biological mother can become a second parent because there is this stipulation in our law on life partnership, even though the mothers themselves aren't very happy with the situation, but that can grant then the children citizenship, and that's okay. But we have two cases. One is currently also a legal case where we have two fathers, and so they had two children via surrogacy in the States. And since one of the father is Croatian, they wanted to apply for Croatian citizenship, and they got rejected. The fact is that the state officials said if there is no mother, you cannot get Croatian citizenship, even though in the law it isn't gendered. So it says if a Croatian person has a child, the child gets citizenship by their parent, not their mother. So we are now currently in a process on a first level court where they said there is no base for granting citizenship, so we have to now we are filing an appeal on that decision, and we will see how this will develop. But from the advocacy point, we also heard some issues that there is a clear so we have a center-right government in Croatia, and there's a clear opposition on any kind of changes to the birth certificate, because we have this birth certificate that state mother and father, and the far right is scaring the public with you won't be allowed to call your parents mother and father, it will be parent one and parent two, and the same discourse that is everywhere. But in Slovenia, I think you have an option on this, choosing what kind of birth certificate you want for your children, and that's something that we wanted to suggest to our government, and to find a clear and easy solution. So if the child has a mother and a father, administratively you can get that birth certificate, and you can get one that just states parents and whatnot. But again, the government isn't collaborative and isn't answering any of our calls or mails. So we will see how this will be decided. But yeah, we are now currently appealing for this process, and the fact is that since the children have only American citizenship, when they were in Croatia, they had to be deported because they didn't have citizenship and any kind of requirement to stay in Croatia. But then the police said, well, we won't deport them because we see the situation is they are babies, and what they should go all the way to Slovenia and then come back while the parents remain in Croatia, because the American parent has also Irish citizenship, so has a EU passport, and both of the parents can stay in Croatia, but both of the children cannot stay. So this is also illogical. So from one side, we have state officials that are recognizing how the situation is not logical, but from the other side, you have all the politicians that are just, don't want to touch into this like a kind of a hornet's nest with the birth certificates with two parents. Again, there is this opportunity for children in Croatia from same-sex couples to have citizenship based on partnership care, but it's it cannot be applied when you have only fathers. You have to have a biological mother, and the mother isn't stated. So I don't know how this will be resolved, but yeah, we don't mean to stop anytime soon, and we will push for birth certificate with two different that doesn't have a gendered parent in them, that you can have just parents, because also this ties in with the situation of adoption in Croatia, because now we have now it's also in appeal, this case of the gay couple who wants to adopt. But in the future, when they will adopt a child, they currently have 2 children in foster care, and they are prospective adoptees for those children since they are already for 1 year with them. And when they adopt those children, the question is, what kind of birth certificate will the state issue to those children? Because when you get adopted, you get a new ID number, you get a new birth certificate, and you have to have written your parents. In heterosexual couples, you get a birth certificate with father and mother. But what will happen in this case? Will they ask the two of them who wishes to be the father, who wishes to be the mother? So we will see how this will develop. And again, we will then tie in all the case of the Americans who have the surrogacy. But it just shows how the state isn't prepared for all the administrative hurdles that you have after you pass any kind of law. And we saw that, as I said, that the state did pass this in 2014. We had a law because we had to join when we were joining the European Union. We had a law that wasn't even applicable in practice, and this one is better. But again, you have so many in practice, in real life situation, that the state doesn't recognize, and then you have to fight for them. So, but we will keep everybody posted, and we will let you know how this will develop. We should have a statement from the second level administrative court regarding adoption sometime soon, I hope before the end of this year. So we will see if this gay couple manages to adopt, what kind of birth certificate will then be issued to the children. And hopefully this will also clear the situation with foreign parents, well, when one of the parents is not a Croatian citizenship.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Do we have any other questions or comments, or for questions for the panelists or comments in general? No? Offered once.
No, maybe I can say something very quick, which also as a reflection. Hello, everybody. My name is Amarildo Fezzani. I'm executive director of ERA. For those who don't know me, I just wanted to say that I am. It's like it's a bell or a kind of alarm ring for us as a network to be aware and to understand that rainbow families are not just a reality, but they're happening. They're all over the region. We heard that regardless of the legal situation, society is changing. Like LGBTI people themselves are getting into the forming families. They're having children. While the states, it seems they are not at the same pace. They are not fully realizing, probably, and understanding what is really going on, and how much their lack of political will, their lack of engagement, how much difficulty it is causing to adults and also to children. So I see it as very important for us as a network. I think this meeting was very important, but I also think that we should continue the conversation, because it's my impression that there is a lot of overlaps, there is a lot of expertise, there are a lot of needs among member organizations, but also those who are not here in this meeting today who could benefit from this exchange, and then to realize what can we do regionally and internationally. Again, I think and I feel that we have really a lot to do to make these governments realize that they're abusing no more just adults' human rights, but also children's rights, and that this is a reality. They can't just as Daniel said, you know, they can't just deport children on their own, and they can't just not register babies in Albania, and so on and so forth. So I'm really amazed by the work of our members on this matter, and I just think that I really want us to continue this regional, call it peer support conversation, and to push it forward. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, Amari. Do we have any additional questions for the panels? Okay, Stefan says, thanks, anyone. Well, I would like also to use this opportunity to thank all the panelists for participation and for sharing the light on the situation in their respective countries. And as Amari said, we have a long road ahead of us, and this is first of the many meetings that we will have, and where we will share all the things that are happening in the region, all the good practices, and for the member organizations, see you now at 2 o'clock. And for all the others, I'll see you all tomorrow morning on the new panel that we are having. Thank you so much for joining us. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Let me
Stop
stop.
yeah, and